Sapphire for the opportunity to present today, and thank you to the audience for joining us to have a look at the topic of securing the cloud. And of course, we're specifically looking at Microsoft 365 as part of this. So the proposition that we put in front of you to join this webinar was, as more businesses move to the cloud, and with a GDPR deadline date looming, the need for easy-to-use encryption has never been greater. So I'm going to try and outline for you some of the issues around moving to the cloud and maintaining and even enhancing security as you do so. We're also going to have a little look at the Egress solution. So initially to explain why we think that our solution is suitable for businesses that are moving to the cloud, but also to give you a brief demonstration of some of the Egress environments and what that looks like. Just to let you know that I'm talking from Egress HQ, which is in London. So we are a UK-based, UK-owned data security company, and we focus purely on the problem of how do you share sensitive data securely. I work in the marketing team here, and my colleague James, who's going to join us to demo part of the solution, works in our technical services team. So he's essentially a solutions architect who'd be able to work with you on your own requirements as you potentially move to the cloud and look at how to adopt or integrate or enhance the encryption services that you're using at the moment. So the first thing that we want to say, we're obviously focusing quite strongly on Microsoft Office 365 on this webinar. The reason for that is that this is one of the biggest selling solutions and a solution that's really seeing a lot of adoption, and particularly in the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen a large number of customers are now seriously considering or have already started to migrate or fully adopt Microsoft Office 365. And what we want to say, first of all, is that makes absolute sense as a business decision. And I think we really want to kind of back you in that and help you to ensure that your move to Office 365 can be as secure as possible. As you'll see from the slide, Office 365 offers greater flexibility for your business. It's got obvious cost benefits. One of those is reducing the need to manage infrastructure. But also some of the real advantages for businesses that are looking to grow and need scalability is the practically limitless scalability and storage that's offered by the move to the cloud. There's a lot of out-of-the-box functionality in Microsoft Office 365 that just makes it easier to get on with business day to day. Of course, on top of that, there are a lot of other business tools you can add to enhance the experience. And you're going to have larger mailboxes than previously if you were on Exchange, and greater potential for mobile working. But at the same time, everyone needs to be conscious about the forthcoming EU GDPR regulations. So moving to the cloud comes with security concerns, but so does business as usual. EU GDPR is going to be pretty revolutionary for the way that businesses think about how they handle their data, and a lot of businesses are going to have to go through transformation to be able to comply with the EU GDPR, with the additional reporting that's going to be required, and the improvements maybe in processes and technology. Hopefully by now, because we are less than 12 months away from the implementation of EU GDPR, hopefully everyone on the call has a reasonably good grip on what's involved. Fundamentally, it's about providing EU citizens with greater control over how their data is used. And that means that it's going to be relevant to us in the UK, even after Brexit, because organisations are still going to be communicating with EU organisations. They're going to hold data on EU citizens. And the ICO, which is our regulator in the UK, expects that the standards required in EU GDPR will pass over into UK law. Now, the implications of EU GDPR are also that the fines and the potential penalties for data breaches are significantly higher than they have been in the past. So the current limit the ICO can impose is £500,000 in fines for data breaches. With EU GDPR, that steps up to 20 million, or 4% of global revenue, and it even stipulates that it's whichever is higher. So serious risks there for businesses in the way that they handle data, and a requirement to report on data breaches. So here are some aspects that are particularly affected in the area of sharing sensitive data. So that's the problem that Egress exists to solve. So what does EU GDPR mean for us and for our customers that look to share securely? Well, firstly, you're going to need to know what personal data you hold on customers or any other partners and other bodies that you're working with. GDPR specifically identifies that encryption is an appropriate technology to protect personal data. So there's a requirement to protect personal data, but there's also an indication of what they believe is a sensible way of doing that. EU GDPR also expects that organizations will keep detailed records of the processing that's been conducted on personal data. So that basically just means being able to understand and report on how data has been accessed, who opened an email, who opened a file, when did they do that, how long did they have access for, how many records were in that file. This is really about understanding the exposure of a data breach. Now, if that sounds scary to anyone, we kind of want to reassure you that technology already exists that can help you prepare for EU GDPR. So you can use classification to understand what sensitive data you hold and to mark it. In other words, you can apply watermarks or headers and footers or simply metadata that marks how sensitive a particular file or a piece of text, a piece of content is. And we'll show you later on how you can do that with the Egress Switch solution. You can also help yourself to avoid a breach by using encryption. But encryption with additional features is going to give you particular strength when it comes to complying with EU GDPR. So encryption with real-time access controls. So that should be control over access even after you've shared data. So that would include the ability to revoke access in the future. So you've sent an email to somebody, but you realize that it's either no longer appropriate for them to access or that they shouldn't have been sent that data in the first place. You can prevent them from accessing it in the future. And you can also restrict people from forwarding content or downloading content. These are all things that are possible with existing current technology. You're also going to need to be able to audit and report on how data is accessed, and that as well is possible with today's technology. So really the tools that you need, the technologies that you need to comply with the EU GDPR to a large extent already exist in the area of sharing sensitive data. But if you're moving to the cloud, and if you're migrating to Office 365, and if your users are adopting this solution, there are some questions that you're necessarily going to want to ask yourselves as an organization to ensure that you are compliant and to ensure that you are secure. And beyond compliance, you might have other reasons to want to be secure. You might simply want to protect your company's intellectual property, commercial interests, your reputation, as well as protect yourselves from penalties. So ask yourselves, do you understand what data is sensitive? Do individual users in your organization easily know when a document has sensitive information in it? Are you, as an organization, do you have admin users or management users who can quickly see the sensitivity of documents? How will you secure emails and file attachments to protect sensitive data? What tools do you have in place at the moment? What tools do you maybe need to bring in that can secure your email content, that can apply encryption? Would be a good base starting point. But again, as we said, the ability to control access further on down the line. Can you ensure that your staff send emails securely? So you can give them the tools, but how do you help them to use those effectively? Have you put rules or policies in place? Do you have a solution that can enforce policies, that can enforce encryption or a certain level of protection when sensitive data is in play? Do you have the ability to, for technology to read the sensitivity of your content and to then act appropriately to apply the relevant level of protection automatically and ensure that your users are doing something that's secure? But as you move to the cloud, you're also going to have particular questions around where your data is stored and ensuring the security when it's at rest, who has access to that, what jurisdictions are applicable, where does the data reside. You might be particularly keen to ensure that your data stays within the EU or within a UK data center. Do you have that option, and have you considered that? But also, how do you ensure uptime? So as you move to the cloud, you become dependent on outsourced data centers. Somebody else essentially controls your uptime and your access to your data, your information that's stored on email. So what can you do to ensure that you have a backup plan if a service is down at any point? And can you keep track of the flow of sensitive data in and out of your organization? And related to that, can you report on this for compliance? This is obviously going to be essential as GDPR comes in. Do you have the ability to not just understand sensitive data when it's on your network, when you hold it, but also to understand how the sensitive data has been accessed at a future point? The recommendation from Egress and the way that we've designed our solution is that we need to improve integration to improve results. So rather than having multiple different solutions that tackle these problems, separate classification solutions, separate encryption solutions, separate rights management solutions, let's treat the problem holistically. And let's try to secure data at every stage of its life cycle. So let's build a solution, as Egress have tried to do, that covers from the creation of data to its controlled release and through to protection in transit and at rest. And also, let's provide some systems intelligence that helps you as an admin user or a compliance officer to address threats. So let's have some feedback about how users are sharing data, what trends can we analyze, and how can we use that in future to improve performance and improve security. Now we're recording the webinar and we'll send around these slides or make these slides available at a later point as well. So don't worry about any slides that have a lot of text. These will be available to you for you to go over in future. But what we want to reiterate here is that as you move to the cloud, you've made a decision that's about probably business efficiency, ensuring that your company is ready for future technology, future scalability, future changes in mobility of the workforce, and it's also reaping the cost benefits of this new technology. So let's ensure that our security solutions are also efficient for business use while delivering security at the same time. So it would be no good if we provided you with a solution that enhanced the security of Microsoft Office 365, but made it much harder for your users to do their work if it slowed down the operations of your organization day to day. So this is something that's very much been in the mind of how the Egress solution has been designed. We talk a lot about ease of use, and when James comes to show you the Egress solution, to show you the user interfaces and how it integrates with the Microsoft environment, what we're going to look to show you there is really how easy this is to use, and as a result of that, how it will help you to perform your business operations as efficiently as possible. But from the security side of things, you want to ensure that only correct end users access data. You might want to enforce multi-factor authentication to do that. You might want to ensure that you have location and device awareness. So as you move to 365, consider that. Take that into consideration. Do you have the tools to be able to do that? Can you store sensitive emails in encrypted format in the cloud and at rest and on endpoint devices? So this is partly about having complete uptime, access at any time, and a backup should you not have access to Office 365 or your other cloud solutions. And can you ensure that you're securing emails and files within an encrypted container, particularly if you have users on mobile devices? So if you're moving to Office 365 and you're giving apps to your users and they're working outside of your own premises, what data is on those devices, and how do you ensure that that is shared and managed in a secure way? Also, obviously, for business efficiency, you want to have integration with Office 365 directly. You don't want to be stepping out of Office 365 into completely separate interfaces. You want it to be as seamless as possible. But you absolutely, just to reiterate this, need to think about how you maintain compliance as you move to the cloud. So how are you going to meet regulatory compliance standards, including auditing and reporting on clear text and encrypted email content? So if you're using an encryption solution at the moment, how are you going to be able to search through that? How are you going to be able to audit on how particular terms have been used, particularly as there's going to be, with EU GDPR, probably an increase in the number of subject access reports, and basically customers or citizens that are coming to you asking you about their data, wanting to understand what data you hold. That's going to be a difficult task for you if you have a lot of encrypted information that you're not able to search through. And are you able to demonstrate how you've been using encryption? Are you able to demonstrate the authentication that you've been using to prove that only authorized users have been able to access information? And can you provide that analysis in a clear way so that the regulator can understand what you've been doing with data, but also so that your own organization can understand and identify security vulnerabilities. So yes, we want to be able to report to the regulator if there's a breach, but we also want to be able to analyze trends within the organization and spot potential risks before they happen. So we're going to show you later on part of the Vault solution, it's part of the Egress Switch platform, which is essentially about tracking, but also visually understanding how data has been used and accessed over time, how particular terms are used, but also what specific users are doing and which particular users might be causing risks to your organization. So what we want to do now is to move on to a look at the Egress solution and a direct comparison with encryption that comes with Office 365. So if you're already actively looking at Microsoft Office 365, and if you've already started to consider some of the security and compliance concerns, then you might already be aware of Office 365 message encryption features. So yeah, we can say that there are out-of-the-box encryption features that come with Office 365. This is, for most customers, essentially a paid add-on. So as part of this webinar, we want to help you understand how this differs from Egress Switch and perhaps some of the limitations in the Office 365 message encryption that we can build on, enhance, and improve on with Egress Switch. So in other words, what we're saying is that Egress Switch integrated with Office 365 offers you security enhancements on the out-of-the-box security experience. At this point, I'm going to introduce James, not just to show a screen just yet, but we're looking at a slide now that compares, well, it shows some screenshots of the sender experience for Microsoft 365 message encryption. And if I flick on, we have a slide as well comparing, showing screenshots of Egress Switch. So James, could you explain to the audience very briefly, what are the main fundamental differences in the sender experience between 365 and Egress Switch?
Okay, thank you, David. So, I mean, the main fundamental difference there is the integration that Switch offers over 365. So from a sender's point of view, we've got our glossy little Outlook add-in that can be configured to do various different bits and pieces here, whether that's introduce DLP rules, provide prompts and feedback to the user about their behavior, or perform the encryption itself to allow us to effectively secure the cloud, as David mentioned there. That differs slightly from the 365 experience, which relies largely on transport rules, which could include sort of DLP rules there, but largely is deployed as a subject line that needs to be tagged there, which is not the most friendly of sender experiences there. And generally speaking, we would typically see our customer base only use this on a very ad hoc basis, and not when they need to be sending sensitive information on a day-to-day sort of frequency.
Thanks, James. And if we move on a couple of slides, we'll look as well at the recipient experience. And just to say that we're going to show you the actual user interface of Egress Switch in a few minutes on essentially a demo. So we will cover some more detail on what the solution looks like. But looking at the recipient experience, this is obviously a pretty crucial part of the jigsaw or the problem, because it's one thing to improve our processes and security as an organization, to give our users tools that are easy to use on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, a lot of organizations are sending sensitive data outside the organization to customers or citizens or other third parties who have limited technical experience or training. So making the experience for them is vitally important. So one of the things that we would suggest to you as you consider your move to the cloud is to think about the experience for your recipients. James, can you give us again, as you've done for the sender experience, a summary of the differences between the recipient experience with 365 and with Egress Switch?
Again, it really comes down to the integration with whatever endpoint mail client you're using is. So as we can see from this slide here, we've got an HTML attachment that's come in there. Now the recipient is required to sort of go off and view that using their sort of default browser, which divorces the whole process from their email client. Now any sort of response that the recipient then sends, you as the internal user, the originator of that mail chain, you would have to access their reply in exactly the same manner there, which kind of will always require you to go through an additional step of moving over to a different window or clicking through to a different piece of software. And it just becomes cumbersome if it's, again, a process that you have to use with sort of great frequency. The other thing to mention there is the authentication methods that are available. So we had detailed on that slide that you can use your Microsoft ID to sign in or a one-time passcode. Now, it works out very well with the one-time passcode for a recipient that doesn't have that Microsoft ID there. It's very simple for them to receive, etc. However, if there are sort of mail delivery issues, that can become a cumbersome process in itself. If you sort of are accessing content several times, receiving multiple different one-time passcodes there, it can become a confusing process to kind of manage that. And likewise with the Microsoft account there, not everybody has one, so there is a sign-up process that they have to go through. We have a similar sign-up process, but generally speaking, we tend to find that ours is a very well accepted format now for receiving mail.
Thanks, James. Also within Switch, we have these auditing and tracking features, which, as far as we understand, aren't available in Microsoft Office 365, certainly not at the moment. But James, can you just explain what's on the screen now in this brief screenshot? This is part of the Switch email and file transfer solution that would be available to kind of end users within an organization that are sharing sensitive data by email and file attachment. Can you explain what tracking and control features this is giving the end user?
So from the point of encryption, each and every action that is taken on an encryption key is logged, audited back to the user, and tracked to an individual IP address. So from sending a mail to the recipient opening it, absolutely every action there is accessible to both the user and on an administrative level as well. So as an end user, from a simple Outlook add-in, I can quickly launch this sort of sent packages window that we can see here. And I've got the ability to jump in, see who's been accessing my content. If I want to, I have the ability to revoke that, kill it completely in real time. It's a very important feature when you consider that the implications of autocomplete and other such features that are available within Outlook and standard mail clients now. It's very easy to send content to the wrong person. So having that ability to kill that access is quite key. And again, even if somebody had accessed that content before you had the ability to revoke that, you've got a full audit log of who's accessed it, when they've accessed it, and where they've accessed it from.
Brilliant. Well, I think what would make sense now is to actually demonstrate this solution. So we're going to show you our email and file transfer solution integrated firstly with a desktop Outlook that's running on Microsoft 365. We're going to show you briefly the experience for a recipient receiving that email, but we'll also show you the experience using the Outlook webmail. So if you have users working from home or working remotely using the web access, then we can integrate with that as well. And we'll also briefly show you a view of our Vault, which is the archiving and auditing tool that allows you to get a picture of how information is being shared across the organization. And we're going to take no more than 15 minutes to do this, so that we have time towards the end of the webinar to be able to take some of your questions. So I am now going to make James the presenter, so you'll be able to see his computer.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Okay, so the first place to start, and this sort of begins with GDPR compliance, but also anybody operating in the public sector will be very well versed with the concept of document classification. So we're not going to go into too much detail on this. We're only going to spend sort of 15 minutes going over the product set here, but just to give you an example of the sort of the complete flow of information and what this could potentially look like. So the first thing you'll notice is that we've got this sort of a little Office add-in here that I've got added to Word. Now this has the ability to present a classification scheme to the user, and that could be different for every individual user, teams of users, groups of users, etc. We've got methods of integrating this with Active Directory, so we can sort of pull this on an intelligent basis according to security groups, etc. And different policies can be applied there. So this is a sort of example classification scheme that we typically show to the private sector. Obviously, anybody in the public sector would be using the government security classification scheme. It can be configured to look and feel exactly how you need it to. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to classify a document here. We're going to simply mark it as confidential. And what we should see is that we sort of just stamp the header here. Now all of that again is sort of completely customizable. If you don't want a visual stamp there, we can simply mark the metadata. Alternatively, we've got other options around sort of adding a watermark across the document body and changing that to a different color. So hopefully you can all see now that we've sort of marked secret in that background there. So what I'm going to quickly do is let's save this off to my desktop, and then we'll actually send this out and show you what this could potentially look like from the email client. Excellent. So, okay, and once again, hopefully, should be a very familiar screen to you all. But once again, we've got our sort of classification scheme is up here in the form of our Outlook add-in. Now, this is in line with our document classification scheme here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So much of this is completely configurable according to requirements. There's various different bits and pieces that the Outlook add-in has the capability of doing, whether that's from predicting, changing, integrating with the sender's behavior in some way, to changing the way that we encrypt that and the different protections that can be applied to it. So we've got the ability to apply things like some basic rights management to mail as well, and introduce multiple factors of authentication. What I'm going to quickly do is fire a quick test mail out. And I'm going to simply attach that document that we showed earlier. So now that I've got this document on here, I do have the option to manually select to encrypt or choose a classification for this email. One of the other things that we have the ability to do is pick up on that document metadata there and just prevent the user from making any mistakes there. So just as an example, I'm going to simply send this out with unprotected still selected there. And what we should see, after a little bit of wearing away there, my slightly slow internet connection today, there we go. As I classified that document as secret, I'm just being forced to classify this as secret before I can actually send it out there. not do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is remove this, and I will classify a slightly different document a little later on. So let's choose a different document for now. And what I'm going to do is fire this out as confidential there. Perfect. There we go. Found the right one eventually. So I'm just going to jump to my recipient now. This is a very basic, this is just a free Outlook.com address that I've signed up for, just to give a basic overview of what this might look like from a complete third party, with no sort of mail flow integration and no sort of third party apps involved in the process here. I'm just going to sign in with this account quickly. Here we go. And the first thing that we should notice is that as a recipient here, I've received a sort of a fully branded email with some basic instructions on what to do. Now, again, this can look and feel exactly how a customer of ours would require. So it might be that this is includes a lot of custom branding, something that we would always recommend, and it puts a lot more faith into the solution. So one thing that anybody keen-eyed may have noticed is that there is an attachment along with this email. Now, the encrypted message and any attachments are packaged up into this encrypted container and sent along with the mail itself. What this means for the recipient is that if I have any of Egress's endpoint software, which is all free to go and download, we've got apps for just about every platform there is, mobile apps, desktop integration, we have a Mac app, etc. I can simply double click and open up this attachment, providing I'm authenticated. In this example, obviously I'm not, so we do have this option to read the secure email online. So if I quickly follow this, it should take me to a portal, which will allow me to sign in and view this. So you've received a secure message. I've got two options here. I can either sign in and view this, or I can register for free. Now, one thing that many of you may be familiar with, doesn't help that I'm signed in with the wrong account there. Let me quickly sign out. Let's just follow that link again. One thing that many of you may be familiar with is this concept of a switch ID. Now, a switch ID is a single sort of global identity. Now, anybody can go and sign up for one of these switch IDs for free. And once they've got one, they can communicate with any Egress customer using any Egress product. So there's a very good chance that some of your third parties may already have one of these switch IDs where they've been communicating with some other customers of ours in the past. It's a very simple process. If I don't have an account already, I can simply sign up, and that's just verified against my email address. In this case, I do, so I'm just going to quickly jump in and sign in here. And I'm taken straight into this sort of web portal where I have the ability to jump in, view the mail and any of the attachments and content. This should look like a very sort of straightforward webmail client. I, of course, have the ability to reply from here, and I can render any documents in here. If I've been given permission to do so, I have the ability to download those. In this example, what I'm going to quickly do is just fire off a quick reply. I have the ability to send this securely directly back to the originator of the mail here, and that's completely for free. There's no sort of charge or cost onus on the end recipient there. They also have the ability to browse this service and initiate this for free as well. So if I jump back here, hopefully shortly, I should receive this through. Excellent. Now, this process was slightly different. You'll notice that I didn't have to go anywhere else to go and view this content. It's sort of fully integrated within this process here. I've gone through no sort of steps to authenticate. That's because within this 365 tenant that we have here, we've got our gateway service involved in the mail flow. So any content coming in is decrypted at the boundary. Now, that allows it to integrate with any of 365's scanning capability, but it also gives us the ability to push it into our Vault product for sort of forensic analysis, and any other mail flow processes that might be sort of taking place on that content. For example, if you were to have a content management or document management system, this would provide simple integration with that. Okay, so now that I've accessed that content using this recipient, and I've actually sent a reply to it, what I'm going to quickly do is let's sign out, and we're going to go through this process again. As we were talking about the, from a compliance perspective, the auditing capabilities here, what we can actually now do is jump in, and you'll see from Outlook here, I have the ability to see a complete register of any sensitive content that I've sent previously. So I'm going to simply jump in and double click this mail. And what we should see in these audit events here, originally I tried to sign in with the wrong account, so I've been denied access to that. And again, that's all tracked back to an IP address there. I did, however, manage to eventually successfully gain access to that, and again, shown in the audit logs here. So I've got the ability to kind of view this complete audit log, give me a completely transparent view of what's happening to the sensitive information that I've been sending. This is from a user's perspective. This is, of course, all available on an administrative basis, and that can be delegated down again further if you want individuals to administer particular teams or departments, etc. Then there are roles that give that capability. One of the other things I will quickly show, now that I've sort of jumped into this sent packages area and got this highlighted, it's a very simple process for me to revoke access to that package in real time. Now that I've hit that, if I jump back to my recipient quickly and I attempt to access this content again, immediately, in real time, access to the message is denied because it has been revoked. So it is entirely possible to sort of kill that content off, no matter where it is and where it's gone to, in real time. So obviously there are many other aspects to our secure email product, and I would definitely recommend, if this is of any interest to anybody, booking in a sort of a more full demo with us, because there's so much that we could talk about here. But given the time constraints, what I'm going to do now is quickly move on to our Vault product. Okay, so if I jump into here, the first thing you'll see is, again, we're using the switch ID as that method of authentication here. Now I'm going to jump in now with one of my accounts. This is a very straightforward process, and again, we could link this in with Active Directory or another identity provider if that's something that if it's a process that you'd want to go down. So this is the sort of dashboard that we have available. This shows some really basic bits and pieces in here, message processed, etc. Typically, a lot of the sort of bump and jargon you'd expect of a service of this type. I've got the ability to jump in and view some scopes that have been previously created, that sort of thing. And I can see what other users have been up to on here from an administrative point of view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly jump in, and what we'll do is we'll show you how sort of actually tracking down and auditing on some email information might look. So the way that the Vault product works here is we've got this concept of scopes. Now, a scope is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a scope for email that you may want to look at. So I can jump in here and I can create a scope, and this could be anything. So this could be a subject access request, it could be a freedom of information request. In this case, what I'm actually going to do is an investigation into David Fain. So perhaps Mr. Fain is choosing to leave the organisation, etc., and I want to jump in and just have a quick scout about what he's been up to in his last 3 months here at Egress. I've got the ability to assign this to different people. So as an administrator, I could potentially create these scopes and delegate these out to different roles for them to then go and look at. And I can assign different permissions to them. So it could be that actually whilst I want people to have visibility over what David's been looking at and sending out, I don't want them to be able to decrypt any messages because they could be sort of intrinsically sensitive in nature. Say David works in our HR department, for example. It may be that I don't want anybody with access to the Vault and anybody in a particular user group to decrypt his sensitive content because that's likely to be about another employee or something along those lines. So I've got the ability to have all of these sort of optional permissions here. These can then be scoped down to individual senders or recipients, and we can include some basic search terms in here as well. So there's various keywords that can be sort of pre-configured. In this example, you'll see that we've got some basic things that you would expect of any sort of DLP solution, the ability to scan for things like card numbers, dates of birth, etc. What I'm going to do now, we have a voting system that is required for these scopes. So I can't just jump in here as an administrator and create this and go and view whatever I want. This then has to be approved by another administrator. So I'm not going to create this now. What I am going to do, however, is quickly jump in and look at a couple of the live scopes that I have that are assigned to me. So there's a number of these here. If we jump into this all messages scope, we should see everything that's been going through our demo environment. So we can actually see where I've been firing these demo emails around previously. So just as an example, I've got the ability to jump in here. I can see those documents that we've been firing back and forth. Here's that encrypted email. I actually have the ability, provided I've got permission, to decrypt that on the fly within the browser here and view that content. The other thing that this also gives me the ability to do is drill down into quite great detail with particular search terms and particular DLP terms. As I mentioned, we've got a number of things that are pre-configured on this service, and it's designed to give me some quite glossy reports out of the box on various different terms. So we've got a couple of different bits and pieces configured here. It may be that you have this set up completely differently according to your sort of organizational needs. So I can kind of jump in and I've got the ability to further drill down. Say within this scope, I wanted to have a look at everything that did match a national insurance number. I can quickly hit that. Let's drop back to the messages tab now, and we'll see that my colleague Athena here has been firing around something with a national insurance number in it. So I can very quickly build a very accurate and detailed scope into particular types of content. But again, that could be relating to a particular individual, or it could be to do with a particular topic. So really this was designed with FOI and SAR requests in mind. Let's quickly remove that scoping there. And let's quickly jump into the reporting tab. So the other thing that the Vault product is designed to do is give you C-level ready, very glossy HTML graphs and reports about the exact content that you're sending out and how that's being treated. So one of the things we'll see here is for each example, we have a graph here of what's been sent out, whether it's been encrypted or not encrypted. And I've got the ability to really quickly give myself quite an advanced view. Just quickly run that again because it's scoped down to national insurance number still there. There we go, that's better. So I've got the ability to give myself a very advanced view of exactly the type of content that my organization is sending out and where it's being sent out to. And as we said, these are kind of designed to be sort of C-level ready reports there that give you a very quick overview of exactly the type of content you're sending and where you're sending it to. You've got the ability to sort of scope this down to various different recipient domains and further that search. Okay, perfect. So we're sort of coming up to time here. Hopefully that's given everybody a very detailed overview of the both the secure email product, how that might integrate with 365, what that would look like for both the sender and recipient, and then the Vault product as well. What I'm going to do now is we'll quickly pass back to David, who I believe has a few bits to finish up on.
Brilliant, yeah, thanks for that overview, James, and I'm very relieved that we didn't dive into the last 3 months of email activity from myself, although I'm sure there wasn't anything dubious at all.
I doubt that, Dave.
Hopefully everyone can see my screen again. I just wanted to quickly wrap up with a brief kind of summary or a short list of a few of the switch features that enhance on Office 365 security. So just to lay out some of the things that we have that you won't have in your package if you're moving to 365. I think some of the important things just to highlight as we have limited time now, that's the integrated DLP policy and control of that at the desktop. That's vitally important. You saw James being able to forcibly apply a certain level of encryption or security to an email based on the classification of a file, but we can also scan the content of the email. We can spot sensitive terms like credit card, like the names of drugs or diseases if you work in a healthcare organization, like particular client or customer identification numbers. There might just be a string of letters and numbers. We can pick up on those and enforce a security policy based on that content. Obviously, tracking securely the delivery to the recipient, all those little features and details that James was able to show within Outlook that the user can see how his data has been accessed. Really useful and vital in compliance. Revoking access, just a really amazing feature if you want to stop data from being breached or accessed in an inappropriate way. Also, some of you might have concerns around TLS. It's possible that you have third parties that require you to share using TLS as the method for encryption, and we can support that. Ask us questions about that if you want to know more. This is a solution that's fully brandable in your logos and your custom design. So we can make those switch emails saying that an email or an introduction to the service is available. We can put that in your logos and colors so that it's easier for your recipients to understand what they're receiving. Okay, other great features there. If you want to see any of this, if you want to know any more detail about it, we can arrange that. But in summary, here's 4 points of how Egress Switch can help you in your move to the cloud. Well, it's going to be easy for your internal users and your third parties. That's really the big one. That's really what's going to help you out a lot. Retaining control over data, even after sending, is vital if you want security and you want to prevent breaches, you want to control access beyond your own organization, beyond your endpoints. But auditing and archiving features that aid compliance, these are really vital with EU GDPR coming in. Even with the existing regulatory landscape, I think you want to take these very seriously in your move to the cloud. Make sure that you're able to understand how your data is accessed. Also, at Egress, we can boast being the only company that has the UK government CPA accreditation for an email encryption solution. We can also help you to understand your hosting requirements and to get the best and most secure solution for yourself. So do think about where you want your data to reside.